You said we got nothing in common, common ground to start from. Now we're falling apart. You said, you said. The world has come between us. Our lives have come between us. I know you just don't care. And I said, what about breakfast from Tiffany? She said, I remember that from last night. We both kind of like to remember that something. That's what we do. I see you, the only one who knew. Now your eyes see through me. I guess I was wrong. But now it's plain to see it's over. Think when things are over, so much is left undone. And I said, what about breakfast and Tiffany? She said, I think I remember that film. Yes, and I remember laughing. We both kind of like a little something, but one thing we got. You said we got nothing in common, no common ground to start from. Now we're falling apart. You said the world is coming between us, the lives have come between us. I know you just don't care. And I said, what about breakfast and Tiffany? She said, I think remember that time you said that I both kind of like that something. That's nothing about. Oh, I said, what about breakfast and Tiffany? She said, that's remember that time, yes, and I was alive. We both kind of like that something. Nothing about. Do you love me? Are you just extending goodwill? Do you need life as bad as you say? Are you just feeling guilt? I've been burned before and I know the score, so you won't hear me complain. I'll be able to count on you, or else your love and pain. Are you so fast that you cannot see? I must have solitude when I am in the darkness. Why must you intrude? Do you know my world? Do you know my kind? Or must I explain? Will I bury myself, or is your love? I've been to the mountains and I've been in the wind. I've been in and out of every day. I have dined with kings, I've been on great wings, but I've never been to for a taking chance for if you can have a night, you can have a morning too. You look and so many flowers grow. Do you understand my pain? Are you willing to risk it all, or is it can you cook me so make flowers grow? Do you understand my pain? Are you willing to risk it all, or is it I give thee all I can no more, no more A lute whose gentle song reveals the soul of love gone wild. And but for a heart that feels much more than lute can tell. Though love and song may fail us to keep life's clouds away, at least we'll make a life so and even if care at moments flames a discord or lives heavy strain, all that love but gently touch the strings to only sweet again. All that love but gently touch the strings to only sweet again. Greetings, friends, once again, back for another dose. How you doing? I hope everyone is well, whatever that means. Everyone outside myself, I guess. All I can do is imagine the best frame of mind and maybe the best circumstances in life occurring or applying. But that's as far as I can go, right? Anyway, yeah, good to be back. And after how long? I'm not sure. Maybe a week and a half or something. So not too long. Yeah, let me catch my breath. And oh shit, made a few errors within the songs there, which is okay, but regrettable. But otherwise, I hope they came across okay. Um, some lovely songs there. I think you'll have to admit, even if I don't do such a lovely job in them. First song was "Breakfast at Tiffany's," and oh man, I've always liked that song. And this sort of that's connected to 9/11 in a way, even with the video itself and the story. It's from a band called Deep Blue Something, and I don't know too much about it. I'm just, I'm not researching the man, or I should do. I know it's significant. It's definitely significant to me, and just sort of learning it pretty much for the first time. I played it today publicly for the first time, which like had its uh, little ups and downs as well. But that's okay. Yeah, but yeah, the lyrics are kicking in as well, and the video itself is framed, if I'm not mistaken, around Wall Street or something. So they shut down Wall Street, and it's just pre 9/11 as well. It's like 1999 or something like that. No, it can't be. No, actually, I'm wrong about that. Definitely wrong about that. It can't be 1999. It's pre 9/11, definitely. So 1997, maybe. So definitely going back to 1997. Yeah, in around then anyway, 96, maybe 96, 97. Everything, of course, is leading up to 9/11 anyway, but yeah, there is a 9/11 connection to it. And well, as we all know by now, anyone listening to this channel, and I mean, if you're listening for the first time as well, friends, it's time to get real. It's time to get real. What do you know? What do you know? Am I asking you that question, or are you asking yourself that question, first of all? And yeah, within the lyrics of Breakfast at Tiffany's, a few basic questions are posed as well. And I think intimately connected with what 9/11 was ultimately about, in my reckoning anyway, in the symbolic affair, the symbolic nature of things. We can be profane and take the literal all day long and see how far you get lost in that. Someone's actually telling me the other day, I have a few good stories to tell, but someone's telling me the other day that there's more controversy or there's recent controversy as well as resurfaced about what exactly happened with Osama? Did he kill him, or and from what I gathered from your man, anyway, it seems like he killed a fake Obama. Oh, sorry, Obama killed a fake Osama, and I was bursting my, well, I wasn't saying bursting my arse laughing, I definitely had a laugh, a hearty laugh, because that's something I delved into a few years ago at this stage, and understanding the theatre in it all. Is there a greater story interwoven? Maybe we talk about that tonight. And Chirac, Mind of God. So I'm due to talk to the Mind of God tonight on a casual basis. If he's here in the chat, just I'll throw the link in the chat, because at this stage, I have nothing to present. I've nothing to present. So it's just it'll just be me talking, having a beer, 2 beers left, so that's okay. And saying cheers and playing a few songs, but definitely some interesting talk, because there's some interesting things to talk about. Everything has been leading somewhere. Everything's about something. Everything's about nothing. But yeah, Breakfast at Tiffany's. If you like that, go and watch the original. And I'm sort of here. Let me just say, make an excuse for myself in a certain sense. I don't know what volume or with what sort of strength of volume I sort of settle into singing these things. I sort of rather sing them low and soften myself, so a different take on it. And the harmonica is a nice start there. And of course, what you're trying to do is replicate a song that's produced by, well, I think it's a 4-member band, if not a 5-member band, and a whole team of producers, down to one man, and it's representation. So you could definitely polish that up a bit, as well as remembering the words. That's important. And anytime I hear the word world inserted in a song, I know it's significant. Now, Flat Earth is an open secret, as always has been. There's people in play who have always known the story. I guess your quest is to figure out, well, who might these people be? If, first of all, if it is a reality, and then, well, where do you fit into all of this? And ultimately, this has been about something. We've been given all of this. I've been given this ability to express myself here over the course of 160, 170 shows at this stage, 3 or 4 years, more even. Well, for what reason? Well, yeah, there's a greater, higher purpose here. Ultimately, well, I put it all back down to us finding ourselves. We're greater than the material, so we're having an adventure, an experience here in the material. And as the earth itself is divided, you talk about flat earth, well, the surface can be viewed as flat, like the tree stump, it can be viewed as flat, but to say that the tree stump is flat, no, because the tree then has to be defined. What do you mean by tree? So then you talk about the different other aspects. And of course, we look at the root system of the tree. Funny, we have roots to our hair, right? Roots to our teeth, up in the head area. Imagine a brain. Imagine me folding my brain, perfect fold here into my chin. My brain sort of going down. Imagine another half brain, the other side, very sort of flower-like when you turn myself upside down, and you have all the limbs then flailing out. Well, we are upside down. The tree of life is cut. So there's a dual tree, right? So one this side and one the other side. We view ourselves on the top. Ultimately, we're at the bottom, shoal. And quasi-luminous. Lots of others talk about having to go through the North Center. Well, maybe we don't have to do that. Maybe the North Center has come to us. Eden has come to us. And in many ways, I view that to be so. There's lots of evidence for it as well. Go out and bathe in the rain is what I would say. Pay attention to the rain. Remember at the last hangout, I must have listed about 30 adjectives trying to describe the rain. If it rains outside now, we'll have a cigarette. I'll try this some more. But there's a new green, consistent green hue to the sky, which you can associate with the aurora borealis. An interesting conversation coming across the bridge, maybe 5 or 6 days ago at this stage, a week ago maybe, but just a guy taking photographs, and I was just asking him, have you been taking any photographs of the night sky? And he was going, no, well, what do you have to say about that? And I was just telling him about this consistent green hue to it. And immediately he said aurora borealis, and I said, it's exactly my thoughts, and to expand upon that becomes difficult, because you have to talk about coming to flat earth, it's controversial enough, and then I have to delve into my own particular thoughts on it, which all revolve around ARISTARCHUS, right? The divided tree of life in a state of repair. So as the barrier is reinflated, in association with increase in frequency in preparation for this time, right? Of Aristarchus has some very interesting. Apocalypse of Saint Paul is very interesting. If you haven't put listened to it on audio book, just go on YouTube. The Apocalypse of Saint Paul. Lie down and listen to it. Remember, none of these characters existed. It's all a series, a game of clues, right? So once you get to a certain level, you get to the Bible, and then you look to the texts left out of the Bible. You know, it's all, well, you can at least consider that it's all fabricated. It's all part of a greater script. But then when we get to the books like the Book of Thomas, the Apocalypse of Saint Paul, the Book of Gospel of Judas, these sort of things, right? You know, you're at more advanced levels of, well, I guess, truth seeking. Ultimately, the truth comes back to you. It's your story. It has to be. Who else's story can you vouch for? It has to be your story. If you're a female, you represent your kind. If you're a male, you represent your kind. Ultimately, man is male and female united. Literally, we're torn apart. It's very easy to see. It's known as well. The truth is known. It's told to us in so many ways. When you look at the yin yang symbol, three-dimensionalize everything because we're in this material world, this three-dimensional universe. But giving life to the three-dimensional is the zero-dimensional. This is the zero-point energy. This is the immaterial aspect to us, right? Or to the greater power, God, if you want, whatever. You know, it's just, you know, that distinction, that divide is made. So when it comes to this, our venture into this material realm, it would make sense that the material world would reflect, well, this immaterial greater venture into this division. So hence we have earth and heart. And if we think about earth itself, earth and the soil is I sol. So the sun is being connected to the ground, and everything is ultimately connected to one thing, and that's Aristarchus, my friends, the divided tree of life. The Apocalypse of St. Paul, very interesting, but there's a particular section where that indeed, that very thing that I just mentioned, how did God manifest after whatever came before, after earth and its totality was created? He manifested through the tree of life, we're told in the Apocalypse of St. Paul. Series of clues. Who was Paul's most loyal servant? One Aristarchus, we're told, as the story goes. So, of course, none of these people existed. That's a different Aristarchus than the originator of heliocentrism, the material-only universe, right? Culminating in the Big Bang. So that's a different Aristarchus. One preceded the other by 2,000 years or so, more even. Was it? Maybe not. No, maybe not. 500 years or so, actually, because 2,500 years from now, all bollocks, right? This earth is, as according to the Dodo, the story of the non-existent Dodo, this earth is 422 years old in its current divided state. So post-destruction of Aristarchus, the Dodo came into being, Dodo representing the flat earth layout, right? Flat earth map. It's the disc on top. That's ultimately the disc. Well, how would that manifest? Well, it would manifest in terms of the land layout, where we have Papolis is located. So, that's one aspect of the Dodo. The Dodo also represents a divided state of us, male from female, self from self, literally torn in a spiraling fashion down the spine. And through the heart, everything below the heart is a sort of an explosion, an inversion of everything above the heart. And I guess ultimately the quest is reunification. We came from unity, we ventured into division, go back to reunification. And this is why I'm going to sing it as well later on without the harmonica in a bit. Isis, this is why Isis is such an important song by Bob Dylan. And the more I sing it, the more I realize, and these are all clue givers, the Beatles, you name them, all the Rolling Stones, all of the bigger bands are let in on the secret. They're playing their part. And they're as much actors as Neil Armstrong is an actor, or Nathan Oakley is an actor acting his part. They're all acting a part, and the greater Mark Sargent, a perfect example, Patricia Steere, they're all acting a part in this greater theater, and it culminates well, and as it was always meant to, right about now. I was just wondering, actually, when did the internet sort of come into its own? I remember when I was in university in maybe 1993. It was just maybe a bit better than that, maybe 92. It's just starting to sort of kick off, I guess. So it'd be interesting. How many years roughly would that be? Let's say 92. fucking hell, time flies, but well, time is an illusion as well. And ultimately, time goes back to, well, what the sun is. Time, the passage, that's what time is gauged against, the passage of the sun, and as we know, on a yearly basis. Yeah, so and I'm just, what's that rough calculation? 20, maybe 28 years ago now, 29 years ago coming up. If 1992 was really, I wonder what's the official date for when the internet kicked off. But well, yeah, these facilities were given to us, and they were given to us with purpose, and all according to an end time, an end date. So it's all pre-written, pre-scripted. That's at least the way I have learned to progress in my understanding. Right, I understand there's nothing new under ARISTARCHUS. I can just take information that's already in existence and sort of collate it and represented, represented. And if there's a greater game, a greater puzzle in life here, and there surely is, there's great mysteries here. And because there is a solution, therefore there is a puzzle laid out as well. And yeah, it's with that understanding that I progress and following the clues. Mark Sargent encourages us to follow the clues. Mark Stargen, right? Star generation. ARISTARCHUS. All stars refer to the one star, the ARISTARCHUS, the tree of life. Its core emanating from the North Center, producing the skylights, just reflections, all ultimately reflections of one thing. All stars are one star. How do you feel about that, my friend? Isn't that an amazing thing to say? Well, how do you prove something like that? Yeah, all you need to do is reveal it, right? Because it's already known. The truth is already known. If you get stuck on flat Earth, well, you've been psyoped good, because you've just got to the point, ultimately, as an individual, right? You've just got to the point that the controllers, the enemy, if you want to call them that, started at. They already knew that what maybe the true nature was, or at least the more advanced knowledge of what the true nature was, than, well, the falsity that they presented purposefully to deceive. So, yeah, knowing that you're dealing with a falsity and being in a sort of a jubilation about it, uh, happy with that, that's fair enough. That's the ultimate truth. That leaves you nowhere. And ultimately, that's the point, in a sense, for you to come to understand that if you get stuck there, you'll be left nowhere. It doesn't give you any more clarity on the true nature, possibly, of things. If it's attainable, which I believe it is. I believe everything is the purpose here. We can understand everything. We're greater than this experience. And look, ultimately, coming to flat Earth, away from heliocentrism given to us by Aristarchus of Samos. Samos, S-M-O-S. So S-O-S. Why is SOS an emergency symbol? Good question. We notice the S and the S are divided by the O in the center. If we change the position of the O back up front, we get a different expression, because we have the two S's coming together. When you combine an S and an S, as opposed to bringing them together like this, you can overlap them if you want, or you can fold them. You get an 8, right? So S is ultimately, remember, three-dimensionalizing it as well. So S is ultimately the divided 8. And where does the 8 stem from? The 8 stems from the 0. What did Aristarchus of Samos do? Well, he denied the 0. He was the first. He's credited historically as the initial denier of the 0. All there is, well, the countable. All there is the material, the hell, Helio. Getting back to the IO, that's pi. And Adrian hasn't been around so much, and that's okay as well. I think everyone is sort of on their own, but whatever pathway he's following, I'm sure it's going to come to fruition if his search is hard to genuine about it. But for him, everything centers about pi as well, and I can see why now. I see why. Ultimately, we have the 0, we have the 1, and we have the 0 point, which is the OI, right? The 0 point at the top. Everything stems from the 0 point at the very heart of the center, the circle center, circle, center circle. So yeah, so we have those 3 aspects. You can't define a line unless you define a point. You can't create a circle unless you manufacture what? Ultimately a line, if you think about it. So yeah, that's the So breakfast at Tiffany's, yeah, that will. I'll put some more thought into that. So that's the second time I've sung. Well, the second time I've sung it before, maybe an audience. So definitely perfected a little bit. But yeah, I might start just doing different covers, and the phone I have here will probably give a better recording of it as well. And I might start putting up a few songs on my own channel, just separately, just for the sake of posterity. Yeah, so it's when I do that, I'll find the balance and volume, etc. The second song was Bob Dylan, "Is Your Love in Vain?" Excellent song, and I like that particular harmonica that I add to it. I'm not sure if it's part of the original song. I don't think it is. Again, you're dealing with a band and a whole sort of production, so you've got to reduce it down to what you can. And yeah, very good song. I think you'd agree as well. It's very interesting notions and thoughts brought up. And Bob Dylan is chief clue giver. Didn't he receive a Nobel prize for poetry, or what's the specific category for the arts? I guess uh, just lifetime achievement or something recently from none other none other than her friend Barack Obama, if I'm not mistaken, who received 2 wet months into his own presidency Nobel Peace Prize, where, by the way, he did an interview with Will Smith. Did you know that? Look it up. Nobel Peace Prize interview: Barack Obama and Will Smith. Tell me, if you're just hearing this suggestion for the first time, I'm going to chat in a second. Tell me, do you notice anything particular about the video itself? Anything sort of peculiar? Now, if you don't know where I'm coming from with this, that's probably good. But let me know if anything stands out with you. But yeah, all of these different characters. So yeah, Bob Dylan connected with Will Smith, connected with well, I mentioned I gave the game away there in a sense, but connected with a Barack Obama, connected with the greater theater, and for a long time now I've realized that it's been more than Bob Dylan, and it's like a production team. It's not just one man, it's like the Beatles as well. So great clues to be had, and well, the more I think about it, I could play another song. The more I think about it, all roads lead to ARISTARCHUS. I play another song, "Up to Me," which I sang today, and uh, someone had to reach for the rising star. I guess it was up to me. The rising star. Well, ultimately, everything connects, right? So the rising star. Tar is the spinal fluid. In the males, it's the semen, who's in the testicles. In the females, in the breasts, right? So that divide is created when that divide is bridged through union, just union, sexual union. Well, then you have the greatest miracle produced known to us anyway, which is the human child, right? And yeah, that's the rising star. So ultimately, we have to understand that we're in a fallen state, the fallen star, right? Satan. This is what I think it represents, and we're fallen into the ultimately the material realm, and this division represents well, extra as without, so within, and because we're greater than the material, I think it's within our full capabilities. Those abilities have been given to us to work shit out. That's what I would say, to your own satisfaction anyway. Now, because there's a greater game in play within this flat Earth, and ultimately this is what it's all about, right? Flat Earth and beyond arena. Well, then, if we follow the clues, or if we understand that there is this greater game in play, and all we can do is follow the clues and put pieces together to come to greater understanding that's already in existence, well, that changes everything, or at least it should do anyway. So, oh yeah, just to finish off with the music, my third offering, my heart and lute. That's I have to think. I have to start thinking about like maybe a bit of piano. I have a piano here, and just maybe harmonica, but just a different, just a sort of collaboration or something. Just a few different instruments, and if I was to take it all the way, I was to get a bit of a vocalist as well, just to record that song, because it's so special. It's so special in lots of ways as well, right? But
ultimately to my connected with my search and my following the clues, following the pathway, which ultimately led to Alice in Wonderland, Alice Through the Looking Glass, and yeah, the Dodo and Aristarchus, right? So all of these things intimately connected. But out of all of Alice's adventures, she pointed out to us that this was the most significant one. This is the one she remembered most clearly and in depthly, which was her final parting with the White Knight from um, Alice Through the Looking Glass, which I think was chapter 8, going on chapter 9, or either chapter 7 to 8 or 8 to 9. And yeah, the poem itself, that's reference is not to get too deep into it as well, like because I've said it many times before, but it's from Thomas More, and it's his poem "My Heart in Root." And understanding that Thomas More didn't exist, he was beheaded, right? Just like Aristarchus, it was felled. It was chopped down, but yeah, understanding that he was beheaded by Henry VIII as well, which is HH, which is 8 8. Yeah, Henry VIII living in none such castle. So another, from to my thinking, a fabricated character. So all laden with clues, but the song itself is still very giving, and I have more to gain from it. I know I have. Like it's wonderful. But the poem is credited to Thomas More, but the music definitely is original, and it's yeah, as I said, it's meaningful in so many ways. I didn't do the best job of it tonight, but it's okay, right? That's okay. And I hope the sound is coming through okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I'll go into chat earlier. I don't have anything planned to. I have nothing to present. As I said, I lost my hard drive. Gave up. I'm very very thin. Um, Asus laptops. It was very, very thin, but he gave up after 7 years. So he couldn't retract any of the information from it. So he just gave me the hard drive back. So so much research in that. There's so much music in that. There's probably about 1,000 songs in potential within all of that, honestly. It's gone back over 7 years. And yeah, I can't access it. But I didn't pretty much access it all the time. I just record something and there, move on to the next thing. But I reckon in some future point, um, however, all this turns out, I definitely have a bucket load of songs I could uh, milk out of that. Not to mind all of the other research, all of the images I have, all of the links surrounding all of this. And as I've said many times, I could write about 5 books. And I'm thinking right now, everything is in our brains, right? It's only a matter of just uh, reinvigorating it again, remembering, and I guess all that remembering would require a will, a way, I guess, so some definitive direction. Why would you produce something? Like, why would you write something? Why would you write a book on the Dodo, or why would you write 4 or 5 books on Aristarchus, and what you come to find along the path? Well, yeah, for posterity, right? Well, if all was above board, if all was as on the tin, and we've evolved from a certain fixed setting, certain fixed history, to where we are now. No matter how shitty it might be, but it's still the pinnacle. We're moving forward into the great unknown. That would be one thing. That would be a good motivation in itself. But of course, we know that isn't true. The whole of life is a lie. So the whole of truth is awaiting all of us to, I sort of, I guess, embrace. So in that sense, I've never been overly pushed on writing a book or publishing and anything like that. But I certainly could. I certainly could. It wouldn't take me too long as well. Even outside of anything I have there, yeah, it's everything's in our brains and we're waiting to be reaccessed, right? So yeah, yeah. So I've no images to show you or anything. I have a couple of images, but nothing, no images to show you or anything. Nothing particular to talk about. But I'm sure I won't be found lacking in that sense. I'm just going to have a cigarette at the window, and I'll go into chat and I'll put the link in if anyone wants to have a chat. Serious chat only, no bullshit. And if Shirag comes in, the mind of God, deadly serious chat as well. If you claim to be genuine, I say all actors have to reveal themselves at this late stage, right? So if you claim to be genuine, you'll be up to serious questioning. And if you are embarrassed by any serious question I have to offer, well, you better admit it. You better admit it, because if you don't, it will be clear to see, and well, you'll do your own self a disservice, right? Because you will be shown to be not something that you claim to be originally, which is a truth seeker, right? Truth or nothing. Anyway, let me put the link in, and feel free to join anybody and everybody. You know, what's there to talk about? I know how you doing. 2.88. Much. I was just talking about Henry VIII and Thomas More, and the 88 HH. Well, 88 Back to the Future, right? Which is the I just talked about the S as well. So it's SS for yourself, and then it's SS for your counterpart. So bringing the two together gives us the whole. And yeah, yeah, I noticed that tonight. I actually took a picture on my phone, and it's wondrous, right? It's yeah. What to make of it? What to make of it? Um, your lotus flower description the last time 2.88. Well, of course, it needs elaborating upon, and yeah, I guess it needed more. Because you came in at the end the last time. Yeah, you have to view every. And I haven't been to your channel. I told you that before. I haven't. I just don't. I guess from a sort of an early stage, I found myself on my own pathway, and because I'm a shit researcher anyway, in a sense, yeah, I never ventured too much into what other people were doing, because I knew ultimately, well, everyone's on their own pathway here, but maybe all pathways collide, and yeah, it's all very interesting though, and that's something is centered at the north. I think we all agree on, and I mean, look again. What's in a name? Sometimes everything. We have to look at the names, the words given to us to describe certain things, as pertaining to our reality, and what can be decoded from them. What great understanding. I think that's the only way, right? And obviously having a heart and an intent as well behind it. And I think we come by the information, and, well, needs must. We're all on separate pathways anyway. But, well, anything outside of once presented to us from officialdom, that has to be good. Any and all speculation has to be good, and encouragement of such speculation, um, yeah, in itself has to be good. But of course, we realize that the whole arena is tainted. All of the main characters, all of them, ball earth side and flat earth side, are put into place. They're especially the ones who are corrupt. I'm not saying all of them, absolutely all of them, as in, but I'm talking about the main characters here, and especially the cooperative ones, right? The ones who are sort of acting in unison. When you take on one of them, you take on all of them, because, well, they're defending a set and a fixed position. But of course, their greater inquisitive minds, well, give them away, because to have such narrow outlooks or narrow points of view on certain topics in a sort of collective way as well, yeah, well, reveals a seeming narrow mind, especially when it comes to this greater conspiracy world of thinking. So, yeah, it's that contradiction which gives the game away, ultimately, alongside many other things as well. I mean, we learn more from what people won't talk about over what they will talk about. If you think about the main baller antagonist in this arena, and you think about the main, what do you call it, the main flat Earth. Hang on, okay, you have the main flat Earth forces, I guess, put it like that. Well, what do you agree on, as opposed to what don't they agree on? Because pretty much they disagree on everything, from any other outside flat Earth conspiracies to everything within flat Earth, from gravity to curvature to etc. Movement, whatever, you name it. Yeah, I'll tell you what they agree on, and I'll tell you who the primary forces here are. All the ball side Rumpus, led by Rumpus, or fight the flat Earth, whoever you want to call them, like they consistent contributors. They agree that ether is bollocks, and they agree that quantum mechanics is a sound science. So isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Out of all the other things that they disagree on, which is probably everything, as they present themselves as characters, they agree on these two things. But this is where you got to look deeper, then, isn't it? So I think you were always meant to, as the inquirer, as the investigator, to sort of see through this. It's like a game of what chess is more so drafts as well, because it's so fucking easy and transparent from my point of view, anyway. So yeah, it's obviously and clearly a pathway that you are encouraged to go down to realize what isn't right, and then yeah, follow follow the threads, follow the clues. So yeah, I put the link in chat. I'll just have a cigarette at the window here, and I'll play a song. Yeah, I'll play ISIS again because it's so significant and be taken in a literal sense. ISIS is right. So we have the IS recombined, and think about recombination when you listen to the lyrics of the song. But after that, yeah, if anyone's up for a chat, there's the link in chat. Scroll back and yeah. Let me just say hello to a few more people actually before I do that. Okay, running is medicinal. How you doing? Any messers around? Yeah, take a hike. Any fakes as well? Don't pay too much attention to them. But I don't expect too many viewers or just live viewers or just viewers in general. That's not what I'm on here for. Chucky Garlaw says Dorian Gray. How you doing, Dorian Gray? I think we had a falling out at one stage, but it's been so long ago now. I'm not even thinking about what it might have been about. But that's okay. Chucky Garlaw, you'll get well. Nah. Yeah, I was talking to the one of the Sinn Féiners, who are the sort of at the heart of that Chucky Garlaw, and we're talking about the Corona hoax, and yeah, no one's speaking up about it. First of all, there's no official party condemnation of the hoax, but him himself as an individual, he's aware that they're boosting the figures. He's aware that there's much fraud and suspicious activity surrounding everything that's been presented. But that's as far as he's willing to take it. So yeah, Chucky Orlaw, our day will come. What day is that, I wonder? And who is saying that? who is shouting that from the rooftops? Yeah, but well, Orlaw or day. So that's just Dorian Gray. Anyone in chat? Chucky Orlaw. That's Irish for our day will come. So I guess our day of Irish freedom will come, and of course, in Irish politics now, it seems that I don't know. I'm not even following anything, but it seems like there's lots of symbolic stuff happening. But in terms of the greater reunification of Ireland, there seems to be lots of progress along that pathway. In terms of the country's politics, here we have a dual system. The old enemies of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. Are joined together, and we have some sort of rotating leader system. So I find it very interesting that we have two, being brought to the fore here. But yeah, that's a different matter. So yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what's what anymore. Ancient Irish history, I don't hold it exists, man. Like everything else, a 422-year-old Earth changes everything. But I do think there's a special significance attached to Ireland, because when they talk about the breakdown of civilization following the death of the Roman Empire, yeah, Ireland and the Irish monks, especially in the west of Ireland, were credited with keeping civilization and knowledge and knowing alive, right? So if that's all bollocks, yeah, it's put there for a specific reason. Ireland or Irishness is written into the story. Iris, yeah, I'm Irish H, Irish IRISH. So the I of H. The plain truth. That's a man I haven't seen around in a while. Talking about fakes and people who are playing cooperative parts. Of course he is. The plain truth, Dr. Etherban, man. I think ultimately, Travis, your role was to first of all deny the mirrored water layer, to come up with a different explanation, but ultimately beyond that, to bring attention to the ether. And of course, you hang around with people who hate the fucking ether, who hate the ether. And yeah, I think that's your ultimate role. Yeah, beyond that, I haven't seen you in ages, man. And well, you're another one who can't answer any of my questions anyway, so that's okay. You were first in, okay. Anyway, What do we drink it tonight? Running is medicinal. Carling with a drop of 7 Up as well, so a little bit of a shandy. I'm taking it handy. A little bit with a little bit of a shandy. I'm taking it handy. And once again, perfect timing. As I look out the window, Sirius, the star Sirius is right outside. You can identify it by Orion's belt and the closest star where it points to at a certain set distance, relative distance, seeming distance. There is Sirius, Sirius. So read the word SIR. I just talked about ISIS, ISIS, and IS is the S word, the sword. Jesus returns with a double-edged sword from his mouth in Revelations, right? So double-edged sword is ISIS, right? Jesus, Je, S-U-S, Je, U-S-S, Je, I-S-S, and Je in French is I, so it's I-I-S-S, ISIS. By the way, I think I've said it many times, but to myself more so than anything else, but this is all about the mirrored water layer Travis put in place to sort of talk about this ether band, this airy fairy um, ultimate cause for all of these different visual distortions. Whereas when we think about an extended plane of water, right, over an extended, as I say, a massively extended distance, when we take away the ball, well, we know the horizon always tends to rise to eye level. And with perspective considerations and appropriate scaling of the Z axis, we understand that with a camera like a P900 or whatever, not that I have any experience with that, but zooming in on a target, when you see any mirroring, you have to understand that you're looking over this extended span of water, and it is this extended span of water which seems to compress the vision, especially of the camera. You can't ascertain any of this with the naked eye. Well, yeah, you understand that it's the water itself that's doing the reflecting. It's nothing to do with the air. There is an ether band as well, as we have the ether expressing from above, reflecting off the surface. The ether band is about you know, five or so feet, and you have this sort of clear zone. When you're capable of looking over massively long distances, what you're actually doing is getting underneath. You're reducing the angle of the viewer so significantly, the acuteness of viewing angle, that you're actually getting under this mirroring, and you can see a great distance when conditions allow. So yeah, that must be denied ultimately because, well, it's a mirror sky above as well because it's waters beyond. I mean, we have an energy source. Well, to us it expresses as light, but beware the false light, right? Um, um, Beware your lying eyes. This is not our true vision, but that's because we're in a false world in a sense, a real sense, an unnatural situation. So, yeah, the mirror sky above is an invisible energy barrier withholding it. Ether is the reactionary force, ultimately stemming from Aristarchus' core with the divided tree of life, right, emanating from the North Center. So, yeah, mirror sky changes everything. And within mirror sky realization, well, the contour and dimension of the mirror is all important as well. So ultimately, it's on a sort of an oval track-like pathway, elliptical, eye-shaped pathway, and yeah, as our circus moves up and down, then we have the sun moving in and out, spring and fall. All ultimately, Aristarchus' primary emanation, primary reflection is Polaris, North Star Polaris, Polaris darkness, right? And its Polaris's primary reflection then is the sun. The moon is a reflection of the sun, then, and Venus is a reflection of the moon. It's my reckoning. So, yeah, ultimately, what counts is the contour and dimension and constituency of the barrier itself. So I think that that's why the mirrored water layer has been so objected to, not by only by ballers. I'm talking back in 2016. I came into this before I had my Dodo avatar. How it was. I was going, what the fuck is going on? Because it's so fucking obvious. But of course, you learn along the pathway that people are stuck to their certain scripts and they can't very venture from it. But the truth must be known, right? Yeah, mirrored water layer is a great truth revealed. Absolutely. It killed it low back in 2016. And I'm not foolish enough to think that all this stuff isn't known. Remember, if people actually knew the Earth was flat and stationary to begin with, the surface that we're on, well, they know all this stuff. Right? So, anyway. But that changes everything, and of course it does. This is the whole point of it, right? So once you get away from the spinning ball Earth, once you leave Aristarchus behind, Aristarchus of Samos, that is, and the emergency situation of material only existence, well, then what pathway is awaiting for us? And this is where, well, the real Aristarchus comes into things. And indeed, we're promised reunification with the Tree of Life in Revelations 22. Revelation 22. And Jesus himself is associated with the Tree of Life. And I've been through that before on other hangouts as well, and just how that's the thread that binds everything. And ultimately, finding out we live on the surface of the Tree of Life, the stump of it. And, well, its core emanates from the North Center to produce, first of all, the barrier, the ether, the skylights, etc., life beneath. Ether is the life force. And make no bones about it, everything is unnatural, an unnatural situation. What I say is happening is, and it accounts for this new rain that we're having, it also accounts for the green hue to the sky, which is the barrier is being reinflated, not only by Aristarchus at the center increasing in frequency and energy output, but also in conjunction with the steel structured towers, earthwide, HARP, chemtrails, etc. They're reinflating, they're putting a load of energy upwards, and it's like maybe you put an initial pulse up and it spreads out, you know what I mean, that sort of thing. As you get upwards, and ultimately the effect would be to lessen the ether. That's what I think. It's too oppressing for us. It's not what we were meant, the state we were meant to be in, because the tree is cut. And there's only one tree, and all its tributaries, and all of the desert areas then around the earth are, well, remnants of the giant sort of support tributaries. So that's the idea. Yeah, quick smoke out the window. You're going to begrudge me that, man. Pay attention to the lyrics if you're interested in this song. Definitely, honestly. There's an interesting, as I remember, I read Bob Dylan's Chronicles. And there's an interesting tale. He had an interesting collaboration with, I can't find it, the plectrum now, but it's okay. There's a collaboration with himself and the co-writer of the song, and I can't remember his name exactly, but I think it was, oh, it was a whole album they collaborated on, actually, but this was part, I think this is the Desire album, that's it. So if you're looking for ISIS, it's the Desire album. But in terms of this divided state, it makes itself clear throughout. And even from the first line, I married Isis on the 5th day of May, but I did not hang on to her very long, right? So 5 and 5. So the divided state, we bring the whole together. E is the fifth letter, whole E. 5 and 5 give us 10. I-O. Remember I talked about pi earlier on? I-O with the point, the I, the small I and the small O. So yeah. Pay attention to the song. I say these are massive clues for us, and they're massive clues for me anyway. Every time I sing it, I sort of hear it, I get a little bit more, but just for the time that's in it anyway. I married Isis on the 5th day of May, but I did not hang on to her very long. So I cut off my hair and I rode straight away to a wild unknown country where I could not go wrong. I came to a high place of darkness and light. The dividing line ran through the center of town. I hitched up my pony to a place on the right. I went into the laundry to wash my clothes down. Well, a man in the corner approached me for a match. I knew right away he was not ordinary. He said, are you looking for something easy to catch? I said, I got no money. He said, that ain't necessary. We set out that night for the cold of the north. I gave him my blanket, he gave me his word. I said, where are we going? He said, we'll be back by the 4th. I said, that's the best news that I've ever had. I was thinking about your boys, I was thinking about gold, I was thinking about diamonds and the world's biggest night. Since I rode through the canyons and the devilish cold, I was thinking about Isis, how she thought I was so reckless. She said that one day we'll meet up again, and things will be different next time we wed. If I only could hang on and just be her friend. I still can remember all the best things she said. Came to the pyramid and bedded in eyes. He said, there's a body I'm trying to find. If we carry it out, it can bring a good price. It was then that I knew what he had on his mind. But the wind it was howling, the snow was outrageous. We chopped through the night, we chopped through the dawn. When he died, I was hoping it wasn't contagious, but I made up my mind I had to go on. I broke into the tomb, but the casket was empty. No jewels, no nothing. I felt I would have when I saw that my partner was just being friendly. When I took up his offer, I must have been mad. So I picked up his body and I dragged him inside. I threw him down in the hole and put him back in the gutter. I said a quick prayer, I felt satisfied. I said up to find Isis just to tell her how I pray. She was there by the meadow where the creek used to rise, blinded by sleep and
came in from the east with the sun in my eyes. I cursed you one time and I rolled on ahead. She said, where you been? I said, no place special. She said, you look different. I said, well, I guess. She said, you've been gone. I said, that's all you mentioned. She said, are you gonna stay? I said, if you want me to. So you're a mystical child. What drives me to you is why it drives me insane. Well, I still can remember the way of the sun on the 5th day of May, and the dress oh, ISIS, you're a mystical child. Drives me to you is why it drives me insane. But I still can remember the way of the smile on the 5th day of May, on the 5th day of May, on the 5th day of May, and the dress of the
5 and 5, the 5th day of May. Well, what the one thing that stuck out to me was at the start he went to a wild, unknown country where he could not go wrong. That's a very interesting choice of word, country. We all live in countries, right? What is a cunt and what is a tree? You can't say that word. Hey, what's wrong with saying tree? Come on. What's wrong with you, stupid cunt? Why can't I say tree? That's funny, yeah. That is funny now, isn't it? The divided state. And methinks that, all the jewels, all of the material sort of wealth that he set out to try and find, first of all, he hitched up his pony to a place on the right. So there's the right brain, the righteous side, as opposed to the left side or the sinister side. Why is left sinister? If you look at the word left itself, L-E, so we have the L-E taking predominance over the F and the T. L-E rules the F and the T. If we think of the F and the T in relation to the E itself, right, so the capital E, it sort of makes sense, so we have an upper tendency and a lower tendency. And this is what's, exemplified or transmitted through the choice of letters, which lead to the structure of the words and the sounding of the words or the understanding of the words that the letters represent. So, if we look at the lower aspect as opposed to the top aspect, and while F plays a role there, God is known as Father for specific reasons, or He. Right, actually, and the Jewish God is El as well, which is very interesting, right? So El as opposed to El as opposed to Le, and El is better than Le because El takes predominance in the second example there, whereas E takes predominance over the L in the first example. So you're going back to this potential, I guess. So the E can go either way. A whole E spirit. What does a whole E spirit actually mean? Well, for me, it's this divided state and understanding that we have these divided aspects to us. The immaterial, centered at the brain, right? The material is the God, and I hold God as an inversion of the brain. As I mentioned, everything around the heart below is an inversion of above. You'll find it. I think you'll find it. The more I look up, the more I find it. I don't have to search far for eyeballs. Where am I going to find an equivalent of eyeballs below the belt or below the heart? So that's another thing that I think you'll find as well. And of course, our limbs themselves, our arms and our legs, one sent from above and one sent from below. But legs, L-E-G-S, right? Bowel, I mentioned that. So all of the words chosen, all the words given to us, and all of the letters and all of the orders are very specific. And ultimately, I think it's getting to. I'm not saying I have any ultimate understanding of it, but I'm getting there. And well, all roads lead to Aristarchus, the originator of heliocentrism, H-E-L-I-O centrism, and Yeah, the H matters. God is He. God is Father. Uh, Lord God. That's another. There we have the Lord. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. But for me to sort of elaborate upon it, well, where would I start with that one? Lord God, yeah, I direct you to the Sistine Chapel painting from Leonardo. No, it's not Leonardo. Michelangelo. From Michelangelo, Sistine Chapel roof, the creation of Adam, and to pay particular attention to Lord God and His troop, with the fingers pointed out, and all of the little demons or angels, whatever you want to call them inside, with the sort of sinister look to them, are all sort of urging Adam. You can see it urging Adam. Actually, let me bring that up. Let me bring that up because this is where I point you to, and this is me going back a good few years ago now. So I'll probably get lost in this. These are all famous offerings given to us, right? So they're there for the decoding, but creation of Adam. Okay, let me do that. Yeah, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about now. So share screen, share audio. Yeah, I'll just share my. Here you go. Here we go. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. And look at this. Let me just go into. Perfect. I've been through this before. I mentioned before as well. Sort of the second rule there is that Michelangelo was ultimately trying to say that God is in the brain. All thoughts and notions of God, a higher power, is in the brain, and that's why you can superimpose a basic cross section of the brain over Lord God and His troop here. But this is what I'm talking about. This is where I point you to first of all, because it's such a famous offering. It's surely loaded with clues, and surely it is. God has six toes here for one. Is this God? This is El, the Jewish God. All if you have a look at, I let me zoom in here. Here we go now. Let's zoom in a bit. One. Hey, look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who's going to deny that Lord God has six toes here? So yeah, get it. Yeah. But look at all of the. This is a miserable setting here. Is shit. It's a miserable setting if we zoom in on some of the angels, but it's fascinating to consider what might be going on. But if you look at all of them, especially the more prominent ones here, look, and I think I counted 12 of them as well. So we have 12, whatever you want to call these, cherubs and Lord God, but his very reptilian representation here. Can I go into it? Very reptilian scale like features, but if you look at the greater sort of mood here. Everyone is in anticipation. Everyone is looking. As we look at an innocent Adam here on the left side, but I guess it depends on which side you're looking, which perspective you're looking from. But yeah, on the right side of our image here, we have the red and fiery as opposed to the green and calm, green, blue and calm. And can you not just tell each and every one of those cherubs are urging Adam, touch the finger, just touch the finger, just touch the finger. If we look beneath Adam here, if you look beneath Adam, you just get a big, oh no, you could just barely see it. Just barely see it, actually. there is a no. See, I could get lost in this, but there's a very calm setting beneath Adam. If you look beneath, directly beneath Lord God and his troop here, you have a very violent, agitated setting. Yeah, but that's just one instance. So what's Michelangelo doing? Painting Lord God with six toes. And I've done this back in early hangouts as well. I've done an overlay of a reptile skull uh, with Lord God and his troop here, and it's exactly what it is. The finger out, pointed finger as well, is one of the fangs ready to strike. It's exactly what it is. So we have, of course, a reptilian brainstem, and I guess how all this applies to us, we're still sort of forced into thinking because we have no alternative in a sort of evolutionary way, an evolutionary manner. But no, I think there's a much different story in play, and well, that's there for us to figure. That's there for you to figure. That's where I point you first of all, and go and investigate that yourself. Ask these questions yourself. So I think this greater theme, this greater story is being told throughout, and ultimately it's the division. And are we tempted always and ever by the material to understand that this is all there is? Lord God, who is the God of this realm? We're told that Satan is the God of this realm, but yet Lord God plays, and especially in the Jewish and Christian Bibles, plays a hands-on part in this realm. Although when we look at the book of Job, then it seems like God Himself has no, or not much sort of interest in what's going on in the works of earth. And when He encounters Satan after he's walking to and fro over the surface of the earth, yeah, he gives a vague pointer. Actually, now I think of it, I mentioned it before as well. The book of Job is very important. 9/11 was an inside job, an inside job. Now we have Joe Biden, Job Eden, right? What happened at the end of the book of Job? How was Job, or Job, whatever you want to say? How was he? Yeah, how was he compensated? So we know how the story ends, but there's a lot of questions posed in that. And I'm sure the questions that Lord God poses to Job at the very end are questions posed to you. How far have you come in terms of an understanding of God's creation? Of course, coming away from the spinning ball earth leads us someplace, but where exactly does it lead you? So I would encourage myself as well, and do a revisit. Um, I can give an answer to a few of the questions posed by Lord God, and the best of my ability anyway. So I think ultimately maybe, yeah, that is our quest to come to terms and to be able to offer something in regards to the questions posed by Lord God to Job at the end of the book of Job. So if you don't know anything about the book of Job, I'll just look it up. Right? So yeah, but you get the idea here. So I think you have to look at the whole of the story in its entirety. But while as this is the sort of pinnacle where all fingers point, um, hmm, heady stuff here, isn't it? I mean, there's no higher than this. And yeah, for me, Michelangelo didn't exist. So whoever's responsible for this, the hidden hand, the greater hand to play, and it's a tool for all of us. I can sit here on my computer and analyze this and glean greater truths from it. I might know exactly what those greater truths are or their full extent at the time, but I can pick up on certain things, and a few of those things that I picked up on, there's many more. I've been through it, the early days, many more, and well, yeah, to look at it in this new context, the credited creator didn't exist, that our earth in itself is all a construct and is but 422 years old. That changes everything, So, yeah, it's looking at images like this that, well, will help us along the pathway. Do we want to make our way along the pathway towards greater truth and realization? Fucking hell, uh, it's scary. It's outside the bounds of anything we ever knew or considered. But I think ultimately it has to be inside the bounds of our greater existence, our greater knowing, our greater being. Um, yeah, there's just yeah. I haven't been through it. Well, I have. I've spent a bit of time in it, but there's so many. No, well, it's just going back to the same thing as well. But there we go. Yeah, look, there's so many different frescoes, is that what they're called? And there's so many different aspects you could spend a lifetime studying. I think the context is everything. And yeah, I haven't revisited this, but don't you know it'd be fascinating? Don't you know it'd be fascinating? Electricity, isn't that like an electric spark that's waiting to be sort of generated and propagated? And the Jewish God is El as well. Um, okay, I'm not gonna, but yeah, for your own interest. Uh, Flat Earth is a scam. Says Flat Earth is a scam, or Flat Earth is a scam. Actually says ha ha ha. Rob Killen, how you doing, man? Yeah, it's all a scam. Everything's a scam. Nothing is real. There's nothing to get hung about. Well, maybe your story is real. I think that's the ultimate point, isn't it? It's your story. If you're willing to try and um, read your story, I think the facilities have been given, and to know actually it's better to know your story, right? To know your story. Ultimately, we must know everything, and we just sort of entered into a state of forgetfulness. But ultimately, we must know everything, and it's about maybe this is what this life is about. Lie of F, right? It's just coming out of that unknowingness and back to that greater knowing state. Life has to be about something. And the only thing I say, I mean, coming to, and it couldn't be a more drastic departure. I came from the certainty that I had 70 short years here, even in spite of all my early memories. And, I just put them against the greater context, the greater backdrop of the certitude, the certainty of science. And once I got to mature times, right? And yeah, I was resigned to that truth that I had 70 short years here. What came before, what came after, what will come after, irrelevant. I won't be around to be cognizant of it. What counts is what's here and what's going on right now. And yeah, well, no greater contrast than coming to flat Earth and beyond to realize that 70 short years in relation to what eternity, something outside of time to begin with. Um, yeah, life has to be about something. And I think it's this greater unraveling, this greater revelation that it's always been um, culminating in, scripted to culminate at. And it's right about this time. Corona's a hoax, controversial terms. Very controversial around here as well, saying Corona's a hoax. Today I sang my Corona's a hoax song. I'm going to sing it again the second. I sing it again for a few times. I sang it a few times today on the street in Limerick here. One, especially when there was a cop going by, and they must hear me. I wonder what they make of it. I'm only waiting for one of them to come over and say, "You can't sing that. You can't sing that. That's we lock you up for that shit, man." No, I don't think they will, or they can't. Well, even if they do, I mean, I'm not going to tolerate it, even if they, whatever. But generally in town here, all the shops are still closed, and it's a quiet setting. Um, well, when I go in, I don't go in for the money. I like singing as well, and I prefer that sort of setting. And yeah, it's a different world. It's a ghost town. Do you remember the good old days in the ghost town? Is that right? Is that right? Do you remember the good old days in the ghost town? I think it is. I made it Boomtown Rats. But it's pretty much like a ghost town. There's very few people around, and um, while there are a big percentage who do wear masks, there are still people who don't wear masks. I said it too. I was just walking down today. I said to two girls walking who were walking the opposite way across the road. I said, "Girls, you look great without the masks." But um, there is some violent opposition. If you mention Corona is a hoax at all, I experienced it today. Well, you're the enemy. You're the enemy. One woman said, "I'm going to quit. I'm quitting my job in the post office. I'm quitting my job because of people like you." It's a fucking ridiculous thing to say, honest to God. And I reminded her, I said, when all this fucking hoax comes out, I'll remind you of what you said here, like that, and how you tried to take away my natural rights on the back of a fucking hoax. So, which I'm sure, I'm still certain, it's all changed. Everything has changed. The Corona is a sort of like a wave. It's to usher in this transformation, and um, you know, once people find out they've been fooled, the Corona, Orona, the light of heaven, enlightenment. When people find out they've been fooled to this level, there'll be no looking back, no going back. Never be fooled again, not in your lifetime anyway. So I think ultimately that's what it's all about. And that's what it's always been all about. This is how flat Earth ties into everything. It's been culminating in Corona, the likes of which the world has never seen. So Corona, as I say, the light of heaven, see it. It's rain down in all its voluptuousness, its richness. Yeah, it's effervescence, its body. It's and it really is. It's listeningness. Listeningness. it's gleaming in all its exuberance. Maybe not so appropriate, but here it starts to fall anyway. Let me sing my Corona song again. I have. I did. I've sort of perfected it somewhat. So, and also forgive me, one of the keys is missing. One of the keys went flat, so I tried to do a home style repair where you just shave a little bit off the top of it, and I fucked it up and I broke the key. One of the keys was missing, so it was a bum note hit. You know why? That's just the alarm in the background there. And I've been singing this regularly at the top of my voice in the streets of Limerick, which, I mean, even though there's all the shops and businesses are closed, there's still people walking to and fro, and people are certainly hearing it. And some people are liking it, and that's okay. Scamdemic, someone said to me today, actually. So there's obviously people waking up to it, and actually the last parting sentiment of the song mirrors that sentiment. Corona's a hoax. COVID is a joke. COVID's a hoax. Corona's a joke. What are you going to do when you find out they went to made a joke about me? COVID's a hoax. COVID is a joke. COVID's a hoax. Corona's a joke. What are you going to do when you find out you went to make a joke about me? There's a whole lot of folks. There's a whole lot of folks. Put on your mask like a good little boy. Put on your mask like a good little girl. Oh, what are you going to do when you find out they went to make a joke about you? I think you get the general gist, right? I think you get the general gist. Actually, was it what day is it today? Thursday. So last Saturday, I was just downstairs and the radio was on, and it was a rugby game. So the rugby players can travel around, no worries, like, and they can beat shit out of each other on the pitch, and who knows, with mutant strains of corona, or maybe hidden or hitherto unknown methods of transference of corona. These people could potentially kill 1 million people. Say, like, it spreads like wildfire. So anyway, I re- realized there was a match on, and it happens that it was Munster. So Ireland has 4 provinces: Munster, Leinster, Ulster, and uh, uh, Connacht. Yes, I Connacht. So anyway, so the two Leinster were playing Munster up in Thomond Park, which is literally 5 minutes walk just away up the road here. So I said, "Fuck it, I'm going to go up with my guitar." So I went up with my guitar to sing the Corona song, and I knew there was no crowds there. So it's a massive 60,000 capacity stadium, but there was no one there. But the game was in full flow, and obviously there's cameras inside, and I thought at least there'd be some activity outside, but there was none at all. The whole place was shut down. But I still fucking whipped out the guitar and sang my song anyway. And it was an attendant, it was sort of a gate you could see through, and an attendant was drawn, his attention was drawn to it. And I think actually, not that I was going away anyway, there was nothing happening. But just as I was going away, a cop paddy wagon arrived. I'm not sure if it was for me or not, possibly like someone's causing disturbance, but I don't think so at the same time. But it just happened to go in the same direction. So I was sort of pissed off, not pissed off. I was like, okay, nothing happening here, nothing going down. I did what I had to do, and as I came back, and I sang the same song, just as you heard it here, outside the main shop up here, where you can buy your beer or your milk or your whatever cigarettes. And your man fucking refused to serve me. After a certain point, and he knows my position from the start. It's all a hoax. And he's been wearing a mask, and they've all been wearing a mask, and he's been putting signs up. And eventually he came to me and he said, "Yeah, you have to wear a mask from this time on." I said, "Man, it's all a hoax. What are you saying? I'll just, what are you ordering me to do something?" Anyway, that's a whole different story. But ultimately, the upshot was he called me a child, right, because I just wouldn't wear a mask and go along with it. So yeah, I said it'd be a good time to. Actually, how I got him. So he said, "From tomorrow on," I thought I got him. It was stupid, like, but he said, "From tomorrow on, if you come in and you haven't a mask, I'm not going to serve you." And I said, "Grand." So I went back up that night, and I have a little bag of 5 cents and 2 cents and all that. So I went up and bought a 6 pack, I think, or 4 pack of cans, because that's all I go in there for, is cans. And I don't even go in there often, so I wasn't even too upset about it. But yeah, I went in with the bag of 5 cents, and I took about 20 minutes to pay for 6 cans by counting out the pennies or the 5 cents, right? But anyway, yeah, I stopped by the shop last week and I sang the same song, and I did the same over across at the garage across. And they know it. It's actually the guy in the garage who was telling me about the Barack Obama killing Osama controversy. So God knows what people know. I don't know. My position on things are very clear around here anyway, and it's small enough town around here as well. Not too many objecting voices, but my voice would certainly be an objecting voice, and especially like I've been thinking about this. I mean, it's so quiet. There's nothing really happening, and there's me singing at the top of my voice on the main street in Limerick, and um, yeah. Otherwise, there's no activity. As I say, I like it. I don't mind it. I prefer it when it's quiet anyway. And it's not about the money, but yeah. I also know to myself, in one sense, the luckiest man. I was going to say the unluckiest man. I am in the sense the unlucky. There's no one. I'm a lonely man. I'm on my own, and there's pretty much no contact with anyone from one day to the next. But on the other sense, and in these times, in these turbulent times, I'm the luckiest man because of the amount of passing love I receive. Just children, especially, I love children, but they're fascinated by this freak just doing something that, what in these freaky times, that is sort of unexpected, which is just singing out loud and playing the harmonica and guitar. But you can see their fascination, and of course, yeah, that's a great irony in a sense. that I'm in possession of or in receipt of such great passing love, and I can't express it right. I can't say. The other day there was a beautiful girl across the road, and all the way she was walking along, and as I was playing away, she was just so delighted to see me singing. She just kept waving and smiling, and I kept waving and smiling as well. Looking at her as she was going down the road, and yeah, it was emotional in a sense because it means something to somebody. But that's what I mean in terms of sort of passing love, and in these quiet times where, well, who's talking to anyone these days? I don't know. I don't know what story. All I know is my own story, my own experiences here. Who's talking to anyone? What's the current status? I don't know. First of all, generally, and then individually. Who knows, right? Who knows? But am I still sharing? I have to stop sharing, don't I? That was just a by the way. Yeah, that was a by the way with the Sistine Chapel roof. And I mean, when I've extended my thoughts on my, it's not even research. It's not great research. I just need to know basic things, and I can extrapolate them. But yeah, not only the Michelangelo, like Sister Henry VIII, as I said earlier on, the Roman Empire, ancient Israel, anything like that. None of it's true. None of it's true. And I say earth-wide, it has to be the case as well. It's all part of a greater fabrication, a construct. That's an amazing consideration. What the fuck do you do with that? What the fuck do you do with that? Well, what do you do with that? What do you do with that? How do you move forward with that? Um, my only, what do you call it? My only ultimate reasoning is, that it was always meant to be resolved, and resolution was always in play. And is this what these Corona times bring? Well, I'm sticking by it. I'm sticking by it. There's evidence to me everywhere that these changes that I've been anticipating, talking about for so long, are occurring. Form they would ultimately take, who's to know that? But Corona is a good is a good candidate. It's a good candidate, and ultimately, it's all about awakening, realization, and otherwise, for me, there's no point. The deception is just to continue at a different level. There's no point to that. Where's the creator in all of this? Where's the creator on flat Earth? And in a sense, we're sort of steered and led to the biblical creator. Whereas, as I mentioned, the Gospel of Thomas, the texts that are omitted from the Bible, the Book of Enoch. No, well, the Book of Enoch still talks about the same biblical creator. It is actually mentioned in the Bible, but Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Judas, where Jesus actually disowns the idea of his Father God. I have to re-listen to that. I could even play it here. Actually, that might be an idea. Actually, that'd be an idea because there's so few watching anyway. There's only a few watching. I have it here. That might be an idea. I'll do that for a few minutes actually because I think it's only maybe 15 or 20 minutes long, and that might be an idea. I'll put that on. As I say, all same hands in play, writing everything. So you're just moving to the next layer, the next level, and it's within these deeper works then that more and more should make sense to you. And let's see what the Gospel of Thomas has to say. I definitely listened to it before, and I have it there as a link. But it's someone commenting on the Gospel of Thomas. I think more so than no, I'm wrong. He's actually reading it out. So I'm going to go and put it back to the start, and not the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Judas. Sorry, the Gospel of Judas. And I remember looking into that maybe 2013 or 14 as well. been very taken by it because of just the distinct difference in the story that's been told here. But maybe the context is right now for a good real listen. And hopefully it's not too long. If it's 10, 15 minutes, well, do yourself a favor and listen to it. And especially considering this greater context. Same for me, the same hands that wrote the works of Shakespeare, same hands that wrote the works of Lewis Carroll, wrote the Bible. It's all the same hidden hand throughout. I say the mysteries of God, right? Just the tools, if you want. Every construct has to have construction workers. So, yeah, let me share screen. Okay. The Gospel of Philip is what I have up. Here we go. The Gospel of Judas. Okay.
For centuries, scholars
Excellent.
knew
10 minutes.
that there once was a Gospel of Judas, a gospel that portrays Judas, the famous betrayer of Jesus in the New Testament, as for centuries, scholars knew that there once was a Gospel of Judas, a gospel that portrays Judas, the famous betrayer of Jesus in the New Testament, as somehow having secret knowledge about who Jesus really was. Irenaeus, the Christian church father and heresiologist, wrote about this long-lost gospel in the 180 CE while criticizing a particular Christian sect. They say that Judas, the traitor, was thoroughly acquainted with these things, and that he alone, knowing the truth as no others did, accomplished the mystery of the betrayal. By him, all things, both earthly and heavenly, were thus dissolved. They produce a fictitious history of this kind, which they call the Gospel of Judas. Almost 2,000 years later, we probably have the text that Irenaeus talks about. In 2006, National Geographic released the details of a so-called Gnostic Gospel of Judas. Now, there's no guarantee that this gospel is the same gospel that Irenaeus talks about, but it does portray Jesus and Judas having some sort of secret conversation. However, except for a few sound bites from the media, most people still don't really know much about this text or its significance. So what do we know about this gospel, and what does it really say? The discovery of the Gospel of Judas is a long and convoluted story, and it's not really well documented. What we do know is that an Egyptian treasure hunter discovered the codex in the Minya province of Egypt, about 120 miles south of Cairo, sometime in the 1970s. In a cave, the treasure hunter supposedly found a limestone box containing several ancient documents, including the codex that contains the Gospel of Judas. These texts were eventually sold to an antiquities dealer in Cairo who goes by the name of Hana Asabal. He then turned around and tried to sell the text for the astronomical price of $3 million. However, after several years, he was not able to find a buyer, so in 1984, he smuggled the codex into the United States, and he stored it in all places in a safe deposit box in Long Island. Now, this proved to be a huge mistake. For anyone that knows the New York climate, it's not exactly the dry sands of Egypt. So after 16 years of being in the safe deposit box, the codex slowly started to disintegrate in the humidity of New York. Finally, another antiquities dealer, Frida Nussberger Chakos, bought the text in September 2000 and managed to get it to some real manuscript conservators. But by then, the gospel had sustained heavy damage. Scholars estimate that at least 10 or 15% of the gospel had been lost because of this mishandling. So after 30 years of bouncing between antiquities dealers and art conservators, finally National Geographic gained the rights to publish the codex. And in April of 2006, they published a translation and photographs of the gospel for the whole world to see. And finally, scholars could start analyzing one of the most important discoveries of early Christian history from the past century. Codex Chakos is about 16 by 29 centimeters and originally included 4 texts: the letter of Peter to Philip, the first apocalypse of James, the book of Allogenes, and the Gospel of Judas. It is written in Sahidic Coptic, an ancient Egyptian language that was spoken in the late Roman province of Egypt. Many of our other ancient Christian texts are written in Coptic too. Radiocarbon dating places the codex in the 3rd or 4th century, but if this gospel is the same gospel that Irenaeus talks about, then we might be dealing with a 3rd century copy of a 2nd century text, maybe one that dates back to 150 CE, which makes it surprisingly early for a non-canonical gospel. Now, it's important to lay down some fundamental assumptions that may seem way too obvious to some of you. Judas Iscariot, the disciple of Jesus and the betrayer of Jesus according to the New Testament, did not write this text. Remember, it dates to at least 150 CE, which is a century after Jesus and his disciples would have lived. Nor does this gospel tell us anything about the historical Jesus. Remember, as a 2nd or 3rd century text, it tells us a lot about what 2nd and 3rd century Christians were thinking about, but doesn't tell us much at all about a 1st century rabbi living in the Roman province of Palestine. I would summarize the Gospel of Judas as a series of discussions between Jesus and his disciples, interspersed with more personal conversations between Judas and Jesus about cosmology, or the creation of the universe. Pay attention to 3 things: how the Gospel portrays the 12 disciples, the Gospel's mythology and theology, which is very different from Nicene Christianity, and how the Gospel portrays Judas himself. The Gospel begins with a discussion between Jesus and his disciples that portrays the 12 disciples in a very unfavorable light. The disciples are there worshiping together, it's implied they might be practicing the Eucharist together, and then Jesus walks over and starts laughing at them. And the disciples are confused. They're like, why is Jesus laughing at us? We're doing the right thing with our Eucharistic prayer. And Jesus responds, I am not laughing at you. You do not do this by your own will, but by this. Your God will be worshipped. Your God? Wait, is Jesus implying that the 12 disciples are worshiping the wrong God? Well, naturally, the 12 disciples are very confused by Jesus' comment. Teacher, are you not the Son of our God? To which he responds, truly I tell you, no generation will know me from the people who are among you. Pretty harsh words for supposedly the 12 most important men in early Christianity. Throughout the Gospel of Judas, the 12 disciples are portrayed as angry, ignorant, confused men who are blasphemous towards Jesus himself. Remember, we're talking about the 2nd and 3rd century here. Christianity was not yet a well-organized institution. Nicene Orthodoxy didn't yet exist in the form that we know it, and a lot of church leaders were claiming their authority stems from the 12 apostles themselves. Certain Christian groups might have had a lot to gain by attacking this authority, but Judas is different here. Among the disciples, only he knows the true nature of Jesus. None of the other disciples could stand before Jesus, but Judas was able to stand before him. Judas said to him, I know who you are and whence you have come. You have come from the immortal realm of Barbelo, and he who sent you, I am not worthy to proclaim his name. Okay, this is where things get really confusing, so a little bit of background in Sethian Gnostic theology will help a lot. You see, many scholars classify the Gospel of Judas as a Sethian text, or sometimes a Sethian Gnostic text. Now, it's important to say that these categories, Sethian and Gnosticism, are extremely complicated and contested categories among academics. As I talk about in another video, Gnosticism is a modern category that scholars have used to try to classify certain Christian texts. We shouldn't think of Gnosticism and Sethianism as clearly defined religions in antiquity. No one in antiquity ever uses the word Gnosticism. No one in antiquity ever says, I am part of a religion called Gnosticism. But I'm using the terms here to help draw out similarities between the Gospel of Judas and some other texts that scholars have classified as Gnostic or Sethian, such as the Apocalypse of Adam, the Apocryphon of John, the Coptic Gospel of the Egyptians, Allogenes, and Zostrianos. The Sethian mythology in these texts is essentially a prologue to the book of Genesis. While Genesis says that one supreme God created the universe, Gnostics say that this being was merely an evil lesser being named Yaldabaoth, or Saklas, which means fool. The truly supreme God is an unnamed God who, through a series of emanations, or spontaneously expanding his essence, created a series of celestial beings called eons and archons, one of which being Saklas, the evil creator god. This is why Judas says, you have come from the immortal realm of Barbelo, and he who sent you, I am not worthy to proclaim his name. Judas here is talking about the supreme God, the unknown God who he can't...
Barbelo, and I was just thinking about the word bar recently, ARISTARCHUS. The legal bar, and BAR, to be or not to be. We think of B in relation to the letter E. If we combine a B and a backwards B, capital B, well, what do you get? If we think in terms of this divided system, but that's interesting, isn't it? So And he's a fool. He's the fool as well. So Lord God is the fool. The divided state, the God of this divided realm. Oh, I'll have to play you a clip from the Apocalypse of St. Paul. I have it lined, not that I don't have it lined up for, it's just funny that it stopped there actually. But it talks about the God of this realm and how, well, it'd be better described in the clip itself, but how, I guess what it's saying is its powers are focused within the tree of life. Very interesting. And Jesus said to the disciples that my true nature will not be revealed by your generation. I mentioned earlier on Mark Sargent, star generation, maybe. Well, Aristarchus is revealed. The tree of life, Aristarchus, anagram of Christ's aura, AURA, astronomical unit, Ra, gold, Christ's gold sun. Jesus is the tree of life. Father, the Son. So, what generation is that? Though, let me just say as well, Jesus. I mean, some of these people. This guy is clearly an actor. Look at all of the propaganda behind Tatooine, Star Wars. Excellent. I didn't notice that. Star Wars, Tatooine. Well, Aristarchus was certainly in the wars, and of course we have the flat Earth, or sorry, the globe laid out on a flat surface map at the backdrop here. So, isn't it interesting? As I say, friends, this is all clues for us. This is all clues. There's nothing new under Aristarchus and the sun, the two suns. If we look actually now at the image behind, I just stopped this not at random because I was counting on what he was saying. But if we look at the two suns, one is like the moon, isn't it? The reflection of the sun in the background. And Tatooine is interesting as well, with the T and the H being the S tone. So we have the H structure, we bring the two divided aspects together, and we go upwards instead of down to get the capital T instead of the LL. But yeah, in the backdrop there, we have, well, the sun and a second sun in Tatooine, but it might as well be the moon, right? A reflection of the sun in our own existence. We have a full moon tonight. And yeah, it's a full reflection of the sun. That's what's happening. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that in a flat earth enclosed sense where the ground doesn't move, you've decided, but when you look up, everything seems to move in unison? Could there be a singular earthbound source to all of these skylights? Well, it's written as Aristarchus. That's the way it is. And well, maybe not in Jesus' generation was it revealed, but in this generation it is. They didn't have the internet way back then. The time wasn't right way back then because there was no time. I say they never existed. It's not true. It's storytelling. There's an interwoven series of clues, series of letters, words strung together to present an overwhelming greater narrative where all things tied together. I think ultimately the truth is in all things. So when you come by the truth, you will see that, well, the clues are always everywhere. I often point you to Simon Jack, the man who single-handedly solved 9/11. Well, not single-handedly, himself and hoi polloi, max camaraderie. He had his September clues. One thing he hated, Simon Jack, was any and all talk of flat Earth. Ridiculous. Very curious, very uncharacteristic of such an open and inquisitive mind to be so shut down at something so, well, seemingly obvious anyway. No movement of Earth ever detected. No curvature ever detected. Yeah. So, yeah, another clue. So he's a clue giver within the greater clue layout. Mark Sargent then arrived with his clues, and I was there for his #1 interview. He was on Fakeologist Radio, funny enough. I was there. There was only a small bunch of us at the time, and this guy turns up. We were talking about flat Earth maybe a year or two before that, 2013, 14. And yeah, he turns up. So that was his number one interview, and of course he's been on definitely on every continent. He's done. He's been on multiple television shows, and he's Mr. Flat Earth, and his counterpart is Patricia Steer, Mrs. Flat Earth. So yeah, this greater context, this flat Earth context, changes everything. So something like this guy, who he presents himself as anyway, which I don't believe for a second. To me, clearly, I see an actor here, and I see all of the different props behind. I wonder what that is just up here. I wonder what that might be. But yeah, looking at it in this way, I think is more helpful. And well, as I say, the truth is always known, and it's just up to the individual to make inroads towards it. I think ultimately it's greater revelation in play, and it won't take very much to get us all on the same level. I really don't think it will. My own thoughts are that, well, first of all, let me say that the new year isn't upon us yet. April 1st marks the new year. I've been saying this for ages. I can come from me. I mean, I can, information from elsewhere, but applying it to flat Earth and applying it to well, the current thoughts, my own thoughts particularly. I mean, the new year doesn't begin until April 1st, and the Earth is 422 years old this year. Um,